Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, the creator and sustainer of the earth and everything that's in it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When we pray, things change, good things happen, and possibilities, well, they become reality. A very good morning to you wherever you're watching us from. You have made it right on time for your daily dose of the Sabah Show. With me, your host Yusuf Farah, wherever you're watching us from. We are coming live to you from our HQs in Nairobi at the Jamia Mosque. Now, for you at home, you can catch us through our social media handles, that is Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Horizontv Kenya, or our SMS line 21951. Remember, this is the premier Islamic station, and now coming closer to you. For the next 2 hours, I will journey with you through the newspaper review with my panel on set today, and after that I will have the tech segment. Now over to my guest in studio today to help me through the newspaper review. I have Lewis Morio, the KUSO spokesperson. A very warm welcome to you. And Abdi Hakim Kigen, a resident analyst. Good morning.
Good morning.
You guys are well?
Yes.
Awesome. Have you been counted?
Not really. I'm yet to. Yeah,
counted.
I'm yet to.
Yet to be counted. But
Yeah.
the activity has ended. What about you, Kigen?
I was counted.
You were counted?
Yeah.
And lucky you. Let us go on to the Daily Nation and begin with our headlines today. And the Daily Nation states, battle to save Mau water tower begins. As politicians postured over the impending second phase of evictions, some families started moving out of the area following the deployment of government forces. Let's start with you, Lewis. Is this the time to be moving people out of Mau, or is this like an activity that should have been done earlier before?
Yeah, you're right by saying it should have been done earlier before, but you see the whole Mau issue has been so political because the efforts that were put in place by the coalition government initially, we'd seen it costed some political base from the then Prime Minister. But now we're in a situation whereby we have the main man from that community, who's the Deputy President of the day, and he really has to go in line with the take of the President through his CS, which is Keriako Tobiko. So I believe it's the right time, even if it was not done initially. Let's see how we can have those people evicted.
Okay, Keegan, do you think it has been politicized?
The politicization of it is yes. It's a yes or no for me. It's yes, it has been politicized, and also no, it hasn't been politicized. Because if you say it's been politicized, then why then the leaders who are there representing their people are talking concerning issues concerning their people, so you can't say it's really politicized. But for me, I don't think it's a battle, because why should it be a battle? And it's something that the government with her two eyes saw these people, you know, going into Mau and settling there for years, and now they want to launch a battle. And as I've always said, the government of Kenya is reactionary and not visionary, and that is something that really the government should check, because it's eating us to the core. And if you look at it now, what the government is trying to do, you know, it's now deploying, you know, the police officers and the forest service, you know, they are fully armed, you know. And this is to scare the people who are settling in Mau. And particularly, it was seen yesterday on the Daily Nation, the top page is in Sierra Leone. And if we know the history of Sierra Leone, you know, Sierra Leone, there are some soldiers who went to Sierra Leone, the KDF soldiers, they fought there. And, you know, as a reward to them, the government gave them, during the Moi era, gave them a piece of land, you know, next in the Masai Mau land trust. And that is why that place is called Sierra Leone. And now years ahead, you know, now fast forward, you find that the government now is trying to evict people from that area, and you know there are cases in court in Nakuru, you know, environmental and land court. And I wonder why people are being evicted and the case is in court. You know, that is another conversation altogether. But I don't think the government is right by, you know, deploying, you know, heavily armed officers to scare these people. I think it should be done in a proper way, where the eviction should not be done just with guns, because you know they say that when you act in a very aggressive way, chances are high that the response will also be aggressive, you know, from the people. And if you can see from the picture at the top of the Daily Nation, you find that the people, the residents of Sierra Leone, are yelling at the police officers, you know, who are moving around with trucks. But for me, one thing that has particularly, you know, really hit me hard is the fact that we have 15 schools in the Masai Mau trust land, and more than 5,000 schools were not opened yesterday. The report says that yesterday, in as early as 6 a.m., some of the Kenya Forest Service officers who are heavily armed were deployed in the schools, in the 15 schools. And I cry out loud for the candidates who are doing their KCSE, because this is the third term. And in as much as we have to conserve, you know, conserving our environment is paramount, and nothing can come above that. We want to see the Ministry of Education giving us a direction concerning the candidates.
Okay, Abdul Hakim there saying conserving our forest is a priority, but shouldn't be done at the expense of the students. Moving on to the standards, now we come to the corridors of justice, Lewis. 1,000 cases risk collapse in evidence war. Now it says fight to stop investigators from secretly searching graft suspects' bank account and premises moves to the Supreme Court. Now we have been seeing cases of arrest, the wave of arrest of people as much as graft is concerned. And now this. Who's playing the foul card here, Lewis?
In terms of the justice system versus the accused. So you see, when it comes to graft, especially for our gubernatorial executives, the whole issue becomes political when you have those people arraigned in the court of law, but the argument comes in the issue of the bail, on how to bail them out. I think we should stick with the justice, the issue of trying to have them step aside, as in we should implement that one effectively. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves in the situation whereby we'll have these people have it as a routine. Because if you're involved in a graft of, let's say, a huge amount of like 588 million, and then you're given like a cash bill of 18 million, that's a good deal. So it will be a routine actually. So otherwise, we cannot come to the end of those justice wars amongst the executive of counties.
Again.
The Professor Ojienda of the Law Society of Kenya went to court, and he presented a case that the DPP and the DCI, the investigative authorities in Kenya, they are using crooked, you know, or illegal ways to say, illegal ways in obtaining evidences, you know, when charging people, especially in the cases dealing with corruption charges and fraud and such like cases. And when he went to court, the appeal court judges Roslyn Nambuya and the other judge, I can't remember his name, they ruled that that when the DCI is doing investigations on you and they want to obtain some information, what they should do, they should come and ask you to give them the information. They should summon you, and if you refuse to heed the call on the summons or refuse to give them the information that they require, then they should get a warrant of arrest for you or a search warrant. But you find in most cases recently that the DCI and the DPP, what they do is that there are so many secret warrants, or such warrants mostly, because this and it happens this way. When, for example, they want to get some personal information concerning, let's say, your bank account, what they do is they get a secret search warrant, and without you knowing, they go to the bank, they intimidate the bank, and the bank gives them the information they want, or they go to somebody who handles your property or runs your estate, and they are forced to give them information about you. And they ruled in favor of Professor Tom Ojienda, and now the case is going to the Supreme Court, and it's going to be a very it's going to be a game changer, you know, in the investigative and legal spaces, where if the Supreme Court rules in favor of Professor Tom Ojienda, then we'll have so many cases being affected, over 1,000 as it's stated there, and particularly the cases of the Kiambu governor, Ferdinand Waititu. We also have the case of the former Nairobi governor, Evans Kidero. We also have the case of Samburu governor, Moses. Lankulal. We have these cases, the governors are claiming that the DCI obtained evidences through uncouth manners, through they obtained, particularly Kidero says that the investigative authorities, they obtained his bank details, without his consent and in a way that is not appropriate. And I think it's going to be something, it will stir a lot of storm. And but particularly, this is what I want to say, the DCI and the DPP today in 2019, with all the technology they have, we saw the other week that they were even given, the government bought for them genetic analyzers worth 40 million each, and they were put in, I think, 5 regions, if I'm not wrong. With such kind of technology, I think the DCI and the DPP needs to mutate their operations such that they meet the law, because as I always say, we can't uphold the constitution on one side, then play total hypocrisy on the other side.
I think maybe useful on the same, the buck stops at the judiciary, because we must have the DCI, it's independent, and the DPP, a room for their own execution of all these cases. Because for the issue of, like instance, Kiambu governor, they brought in the conversation of a decent arrest. You cannot bring the conversation of they should be the issue on how the DCI handles the issue of the warrant, how they are executed. Because you see that when someone talks of like you should be arrested decently, first of all you should avoid that arrest. That's where it starts from.
Okay.
Yeah, to avoid all that conversation.
All right, away from that now, let's move to matters business in the Business Daily, and the headline again reads, relief for consumers as KRA suspends new tax. Now, manufacturers of bottled water, soft drinks and cosmetics also spared high costs. Are we looking towards a positive end as much as KRA is concerned, or the tax?
When I don't know if I should call him the former the Treasury boss, Henry Rotich, when he passed the 2019-2020 budget, when he presented it to the parliament, the beverage industry, they were really hit hard by some taxes, and we were being told that now we'll have to dig deeper in our pockets so as to get water or soda or any other drinks. But now we are seeing that the KRA, is putting away some of the taxes, and it's a relief, of course, to the people, because when the tax is reduced, of course, the buying price, goes down. And I think this is a move to attract more investors in the space, because if you have seen, especially in the the drinks area, we've seen Bidco launching a drink. We've seen so many companies launching juices, and I think this is, to create an enabling environment for them so as to maintain the jobs, because once we put up taxes, chances are high that we reduce the margins of the companies, and reducing the margins therefore reduces the profits, and people might lose their jobs, because chances are high the companies are also gonna close up.
Okay.
I think it's a good move, considering we had the cases of alcohol taxes going up. So maybe we can shift to water. I think now it's more affordable. Yeah.
It's more affordable.
Yeah.
All right, now on that note, from my two analysts, we're going to take a quick short break. But when we come back, get this story from Taifa Leo. Ruto amkosoa Uhuru. Stay tuned for that. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban. You are watching the Sabah Show. Keep it locked right here on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said the believers encourage people to reconcile relations with those who have cut them off. Give charity to those who have deprived them. Forgive those who have oppressed them. Be kind with parents. Uphold family ties. Be kind with neighbors. Be kind with orphans, travelers, and the poor, and to be gentle with servants. They forbid bragging, arrogance, and transgression. They discourage people from feeling superior over others, rightly or wrongly. They enjoin people to use lofty manners and prohibit them from pursuing trifles. All that they say or do from these values and other teachings, in all of it they follow the Quran and the Sunnah. Their path is the religion of Islam, with which Allah has sent Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban. You are watching the Sabah Show. Keep it locked right here on Horizon TV. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaba. Welcome back to Tech Tuesday with me, your host Yusuf. We're still on the newspaper review with Lewis and Abdhakim Kigen. Now, before we went on the break, we were discussing the Taifa Leo, and the headline reads, BBI, Ruto amkosoa Uhuru. Naibu Rais William Ruto amepuzilia mbali jopo kazi la maridhiano BBI ambalo lilibuniwa na Rais Uhuru Kenyatta na kiongozi wa IDM, akisema linapotezea wananchi wakati. Kigen, tunapotezea wakati.
I'm persuaded to believe that by that headline, Taifa Leo just wants to up its sales, you know. Because I don't think Ruto alimkosoa Uhuru. You know, Ruto just happens to have a difference of opinion from Uhuru. And to the best of my knowledge, that is not a sin. It may be a political sin, but we are yet to see that. For me, Uhuru has, with the Raila, you know, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, they set up the BBI, and the BBI went around and, you know, is still, I think it's still in the process of collecting, you know, responses from Kenyans on what they think about their daily lives and the government, and it's yet to give us their report. And Deputy President William Ruto is particularly concerned about the referendum part of BBI, and he doesn't seem, you know, to like the narrative. But it is his, you know, it is his own prerogative to have a difference of opinion, which to me, I don't think it's a bad or a good thing. It's just there.
All right. How about you, Lewis?
Honestly, you know, things fell apart a while ago in Jubilee, because before you come to the public to air such a grievance about the so-called BBI which was formed, first you should read from the same page with your party leader, who happens to be the president of the day. So from where I'm seated, I don't want to compromise, because Taifa Leo is a national paper. All that we know, all is not well. Okay. And the deputy president is reading from a different script, and is not comfortable where he is about the inclusion of Raila Odinga in government. He knows the political consequences. Yeah.
All right, now let's move on to the People Daily, and the headline reads, Why Mount Kenya region is 2022 political bride. Now, get this. The handshake between the president and former Prime Minister Raila calmed country's toxic political climate and turned area seen as Ruto's stronghold in quest for State House into an open arena. Is it an open arena, Lewis?
The issue of Central Kenya?
Yes.
Honestly, it's an hot cake politically for any aspiring aspirant for the top seat, which is the presidency. Because history, we are all students of history. And we know the issue of the Central Kenya, they've never been left behind in terms of the national cake politically. Yes. If they are not in it, they must have some influence in some other way. So the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta now getting outside that political picture, because of the constitution, the issue of the 2 terms, unless we have some referendum. So we bring in the issue of who's the next heir apparent to Uhuru Kenyatta. Okay. So that's the big question in terms of the Mount Kenya region. So when you have someone like Raila Odinga, he is very wise. So he has to see who fits best within that region. There's the conversation of the now called Daniel Iganjo. There's the conversation of the now CRP party leader, Mwangi wa Iria. So we'll have so many of them coming up, especially next year or towards 2021. Right. And the political shape or realignment in Central Kenya will automatically come
All
up.
right, Keegan, political bride or not?
Yeah, the 2009 census ranked, you know, Central Kenya having the highest population and therefore translating into the highest votes in the country. And if you are planning to vie in 2022, of course, in your strategy, you must strategize in tandem with Central Kenya. Number one. Number two is Central Kenya currently doesn't have somebody who commands the masses in the whole of the all counties of Central Kenya. And that particularly places outsiders, it gives them an upper hand, you know, in getting a share of the votes in Mount Kenya. And that's why you see His Excellency, the Deputy President, he has acquired his own bandwagon, you know, some leaders from Central Kenya, you know, who are campaigning for him. And so is Raila Odinga. We've seen Anne Waiganjo, you know, moving to his side. And therefore, I think it's more than a hot cake. It's something big. And but from the analysis, from my own analysis of Central Kenya is quite interesting. You know, you may see it as not having somebody who you know, who commands the masses overally, but by the time we get to 2022, I won't be shocked. Maybe we might have Peter Kenneth or somebody else. You may never know, because when President Kibaki was in 2007, moving on to 2012, people saw that they're having split candidates. We are having Peter Kenneth, we are having Uhuru Kenyatta, and we are having the then Gishugi Member of Parliament. And people were saying that there's nobody who commands, you know, the masses overally. But when we got to 2012, 2013, things were changing.
All right. Now, let's move on from that and get into in-depth stories now. And we'll start with the Daily Nation, page 2. A light story here. Enchanting flamingos and hot springs keep tourists trooping to Lake Bogoria. Now, UNESCO listed captivating site as World Heritage Site in 2011. Now, Lewis, what should we do as a country to make sure that this keeps going? As we go forward, we ensure that more and more tourists are coming in, not just in Nakuru alone.
Yeah, so for the issue of our wildlife and in terms of our lakes, trying to improve on our investment in terms of tourism, so I believe we have a ministry under that, and it's up to Najib Balala to up his game in terms of trying to conserve all those environments. Okay. Yeah, we've had cases, especially in our wildlife, whereby there are some issues of some elephants being shot or by some poachers and stuff. So for the issues of the lakes here, we should conserve them. It's a good note, especially from people from media, and maybe to try and improve on its conservation.
Right, Keegan, Daily Nation, page 3. Kenyans make history with 3,500-kilometer bike ride to Mecca. The pedal to Hajj aimed at raising funds at Al Furqan Tower in Namanga town. Now, we saw these people who rode all the way to Hajj and covered all those kilometers in a bid to raise awareness and create and raise funds for the poor among our country.
For me, this is something to behold. You know, this is in the midst of all the corruption and all the crazy things we see in Kenya. I now have a reason to smile, at least. You know, for the 4 riders who took on the journey of 3,500 kilometers, and they did that for 35 days, you know, covering 100 kilometers every day. You know, that is not a joke. Yes. And the thing that has hit me on this story is their objective. Their objective was, you know, to raise money for charity, and currently they've raised around 3.9 million. Their target was 5 million. For me, I really have to, you know, to say big up to these people, and this should inspire more Kenyans to take on such interesting things, you know, and the objective should really be charity, to help each other, because the government can do so little. And there was also another story, I think some 3 months ago, of a couple who were they wanted to traverse all the 7 continents through a bike, and they had gone from Africa, and by that time they were, I think, in South America. They were going up through Argentina, and they wanted to go to North America. And Kenyans should really take on such adventurous things. And on the story of tourism, you know, the statistics show that half of the flamingos in this world are hosted, you know, in Lake Bogoria, and this is courtesy of the, you know, more than a million migration from Lake Natron in Tanzania, which is a seasonal migration. And the Baringo County government said that last year they received 105,000 tourists, and this year they are projecting to have 150,000 tourists. And I think this is a very good move, and especially it will help the county. But my appeal to the Ministry of Tourism and all these counties that are tourist attraction sites, to really advertise outside Kenyans, outside Kenya, to other people out there, that they may see what we're having in Kenya, and they should come. And particularly, I can't go without, you know, really pledging a big up for the tourist companies, that is like the Bonfire and the Kudu, all these tourist companies that, you know, move tourists along. I think this has been a game changer to the tourism site and the tourism economy, because they have facilitated the movement of people and made it easier.
Okay, now let us go back to politics. Lewis, page 6 of the Daily Nation, says Jubilee picks Mariga to run for Kibra seat. Is he a perfect candidate?
You know, from the time the Jubilee elections, not, I thought it was to be Tuju, but there's someone who declared that they'd be picking Mariga as their candidate. I've seen the internet now, especially Kenyans on Twitter, trying to compromise the candidature by comparisons of the likes of Sadio Mane, from how he's had impact in the community.
Yeah.
We have the likes of Mo Salah in Egypt, and the likes like Didier Drogba, how they're helping their communities.
Yeah.
So I think it's unfair, because someone like Mariga is living like his own personal life. But if the fact that he had a talent, he used it, he's gone all far up to Italy, the likes of Inter Milan, to win a Champions League. So if it's up to him at an individual level to deliver to the community, he is not mandated anywhere in the constitution. So when he declares or the Jubilee Party supports his candidature, I think we should not judge him by what he should have done. We should at least accept the role he has played for our national team, and also his personal achievements in trying to put Kenya in the global map, and give him that benefit of doubt as a candidate. Yeah, just like any other candidate.
Okay.
Not what he should have done.
Kigan, he should be given a chance, yes or no?
Yes, he should be given a chance like any other Kenyan. You know, you have the right to vie. We you know, it's known that Kibra constituency is an ODM stronghold, and it's for me it's now getting interesting to see Mariga on Jubilee side and seeing the outcomes of the election. We'll see on Saturday. The ODM, you know, will give us a candidate on that day. We'll have the primaries, and so the Jubilee decided that it will not hold primaries, and decided to go for interviews, and they interviews the 16 candidates, and they came up, Mariga came on top, and that's why he's vying currently. But the thing that has been on the spotlight, and for me is interesting really, is that in the Jubilee National Election Board that did the interview, out of the 11 board members, only 6 showed up for the only 6 showed up for the interview, and the others were giving apologies. And for me, maybe Jubilee, for me it speaks of cracks in Jubilee.
Cracks in Jubilee. Can you term it like sort of a clout chasing?
You know, the issue of maybe the issue of the divisions is trying to bring out. It's clear because we are in the era of a handshake. That one, you know yourself. So we never expected actually to have someone from Jubilee in Kibera. Okay. But that's where now the Ruto role comes in, and is very wise in terms of the candidates who declared they could go on a Jubilee ticket, but where he went for Mariga, because he knows how he resonates well with the local population. I think you saw how he was received just when he went to the ground under Jubilee ticket, Kibera. So you see, yeah, so maybe from where I'm seated, Ruto is very wise, and he knew this could be the only candidate.
The spirit of the handshake, because we are now seeing ANC with Musalia Mudavadi, they have put up a candidate also. So I don't know, because for me, I knew the handshake was incorporating those who are on the NASA side and Jubilee side, but now we are seeing even on the NASA side, ODM has a candidate and ANC now has a candidate.
It's okay, Keegan. That is something that we can take the whole day discussing, but unfortunately we have to take another short break. But when we come back, still on the in-depth stories, get this, controversy surrounds doctors' Cuba training. Stay tuned for that. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban. You are watching the Sabah Show. Keep it locked right here on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
From the most interesting things is the alertness of the dying person at the time of his death. For he becomes perceptive to a degree which cannot be described, and worried to an extent that has no limits. And he yearns for his times of old, and wishes that he be left so that he can make up for what passed him by, and so that he can be truthful in his repentance in accordance with the level of certainty he now has about death. And he, out of grief, almost kills his own soul before its actual death. And if a single atom's weight of these things were found at the time of health and well-being, everything that is intended by doing pious deeds would be achieved. So the intelligent one is he who pictures that hour and acts according to what it requires. And if he is not able to do that, then he visualizes it as much as he is able to, for it will prevent desire's hand and will arouse determination in him.
Wake up to exciting mornings every day. Active Jumatatu with Muhammad Obuga. Take Tuesday with Yusuf Farah.
800 million jobs will be lost to artificial intelligence.
Wednesday, the special edition Business Chat with Ibtisam Jamal. All about your health on Healthy Thursday with Mariam Mwacharo. Aisha Khan with thorny pertinent issues every Friday on the Round Table. Fresh discussions, direct probe in Sabah Show, only on Horizon TV.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Muhammad from Muslim Mastery, and today I'm going to be sharing with you 7 tips to discipline your inner self. Tip 1. Seek refuge from shaitan. As soon as you get a negative thought about someone, realize that shaitan is playing with your mind. Don't let him win, and instead ask Allah to protect you from him. Tip 2. Focus on the facts. When something happens that you don't understand or like, identify the facts that a fly on the wall would have seen. By taking a cold, hard look at the facts, you'll see that the situation is a lot less dramatic than you originally thought. Tip 3. Analyze your interpretation. How are you interpreting the facts? This is usually what is triggering your negative emotions. Accept that you've added this interpretation yourself and that you can choose to have an empowering interpretation instead. Tip 4. Don't make people into villains. As difficult as it may feel, let go of the idea that someone else in your situation is the enemy who is out to get you. Stop making others wrong and yourself right. Tip 5. Avoid playing the victim. By choosing to put yourself into the role of the innocent victim, you're avoiding taking responsibility for your situation. Instead, be proactive and look at what you can do to make the situation better. Tip 6. Make excuses for others. The Sunnah encourages us to think good of others and make excuses for them whenever possible. In fact, Umar radiallahu anhu said, "Do not think badly of a word uttered by your brother when you can find a good interpretation for it." Tip 7. Take responsibility for yourself. Allah has given you free will, so no matter how difficult any situation may feel, it's entirely up to you how you choose to react. Remember that the test of life is not what happens to you, but whether you deal with it in a way that is pleasing to Allah. May Allah give me and you the tawfiq to implement these tips. Jazakallah khair for watching.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban. You are watching the Sabah Show. Keep it locked right here on Horizon TV. Welcome back to the newspaper review with me, your host Yusuf Farah, and Lewis and Abdul Hakim Keegan with me in studio today. Now, the headline that we were discussing before we went on the break was controversy surrounds doctors' Cuba training. That is Daily Nation, page 6, and it reads, KMDPU Deputy Secretary General Chibanzi said the board is at crossbars to register the doctors given the quality and difference in curriculum. Keegan.
We should not compromise our health standards just because because we had an exchange program in Cuba or something like that. Our health standards should remain high where they are, and we should even better them, as a matter of fact. And you know, the KMPDU officials are saying that they are at crossroads registering, you know, the students who will be coming from Cuba. And this is because in Cuba, the course that they are offering, the general medicine, is a 2-year course. And in Kenya, particularly in Moi University, that course doesn't go for less than 3 years. And the KMPDU is proposing that for them to integrate these practitioners, you know, and allow them to work in Kenya, they are introducing a 1-year course for them on surgical discipline, you know, so that they can be at par with the Kenyan standard, which for me is a very good move. And I want to see very quick reaction from the Ministry of Health together with the Ministry of Education, that on how this should be done to, you know, for the students in Cuba. They should do the course in Cuba even before coming to Kenya, so that when they come to Kenya, they only work. And I have to applaud the KMPDU for this move. You know, health is a very critical part of our society and part of our lives, for that matter, and we should not compromise at it at all.
Okay, Lewis?
I think we should harmonize the two sectors, especially the exchange program that my friend has talked about, because the expertise that we seek to bring or brain drain here, we should cater for its welfare, because we've seen so many issues surrounding the whole Cuba program. Yeah, the doctors who were kidnapped by some issue, and then they a little bit in a way scare even away those who could prefer coming around to either improve our health sector or improve the expertise on the other.
Right. Now let's move away from the health matters into presidential issues. In the Standard, page 3, Moi's 95th birthday evokes memories of humble teacher. Keegan, what do you remember Moi most for?
The thing that I remember Moi for mostly is primary school kids, you know, singing when Moi was visiting the area that the primary school is based on. And Moi, this is his 95th birthday. We have a lot to learn in terms of his health, on how he has been able to get to that age, you know, what he's eating. And to the best of my knowledge, I understand that, you know, he takes much of, you know, what we call the cultural foods, so to speak, you know, the chakula za nyumbani, and avoids the junk that we eat in the city. And if you see the story on the Standard, it talks about, you know, it dates back to memories back to when he was a teacher at Tambach Teachers and Training College, you know, before moving on to be a representative at the Legico for Rift Valley in 1957, then going on to be the vice president and becoming the president. And there is a lot that we can learn, both positive and negative, you know, from Moi's journey through being the president for 24 years and all that unfolded therein.
Okay. It says longest serving staffer says retired president rather was a thankful leader who helped Sabah School. Lewis, ulikunywa maziwa ya Moi?
Not really, but at least I heard of it. You know, by that time we were very young. But at least the reflection on his birthday is happening at the right time. You know, when you talk of remembering the humble times of Moi, and then now you talk of in the 2019 we're talking about dynasties. This is someone who rose from a younger level as a teacher all the way to presidency. And then it should be a wake-up call to us Kenyans now, and the possibilities that we can realize through our sheer effort. Yeah, especially you see the transition that happened between the then President Kenyatta to Moi, the controversies around, and the man now 95 years. You know, I had someone who was the student saying that, in fact, they even don't have teeth now, that he was their teacher. But Moi at 95 years, you can imagine. You can imagine Yusuf. Some of us even we don't have the 32 teeth. So we thank God for his life.
Okay, now moving on to page 6 of the Standard, and a sad story here. Tragic end to fun weekend as Hell's Gate claims 7 lives. Kigen.
You know, this is really heartbreaking, and I want to pass my condolences to the families that lost their loved ones. I think the toll rised to around 7 people. And this is not the first time we are seeing it. I think the first one happened in 2011 or 2015, if I'm not wrong, such a tragedy. And the thing really about Hell's Gate, if you understand the geography of that part, is that Hell's Gate is not far from Mount Longonot. And when it rains in Mount Longonot, even without raining in Hell's Gate, you find that the water moves downhill from Mount Longonot and really goes down to the gorge in Hell's Gate. And you find that it might not be raining in Hell's Gate and the people are like, where is water coming from right now? But it has rained on the other side, on the leeward side, or what do you say, the windward side of the Longonot, of Mount Longonot. And when the water comes in, it comes in as, you know, suddenly, and it's a shock to the people who are in the gorge. And the water, you know, comes in with it gains traction and force when coming down the mountain, and it comes with a lot of force now into the gorge and sweeps away people. And I think the KWS needs to step up really, because because this being not the first tragedy happening similar to the one that occurred, they should really, whenever there is rain anywhere in around the Mount Longonot or that side, they should really close down the park, irrespective of if they are making money or not making money, because the lives of people are really important.
Okay, now let's move away from that story and dive into matters politics again. On page 7 of the Standard, it says ministers ordered to implement BBI agenda. It says inclusion of handshake drive in performance contract signals its formal recognition as government priority program. Now, are we right to ask the ministers order, as the headline says, to implement the BBI agenda?
Yusuf, you see now BBI is very pregnant, and we're waiting for it to deliver. Yeah, of course. It's going to deliver a referendum. That one, it's obvious, it's just a matter of time. So when you see the president issuing that order to the CSS, you know, it will bring issues within the week. You will see the response from the Ruto camp. So that's a matter of time. So for the ministers, maybe the fact that it's not constitutional, the issue of, they said, going to pick views, collect views, without following those constitutional channels, like Ekuru's Punguza Mzigo did. So there are so many things that will happen in the course of the time, and then we'll see.
Now, the Star, page 4, Kigen, Rift MPs to Uhuru, donate your land to the Mao evictees.
I think that is a very cunning statement, because particularly because it is in public knowledge that the Kenyatta family owns large tracts of land, and now some of the MPs are saying that they should donate land to the people in Mao. But again, we should not bring in, you know, even drama in this Mao thing, because these are the lives of people, these are the life of school-going children, and eviction really disrupts people's life. You you lose your property, you lose the farm that you used to, to cultivate in, and you lose a lot of things. But again, we have to conserve our forests and our resources, because as we understand, the rivers that run from Mau are now running dry, and it's something that, and the rivers running dry, particularly Wasonyiro River, is affecting the pastoralists, in Isiolo County, in Samburu County, and some parts of Garissa County and Wajir County. And these pastoralists, they now get into fights for water and pasture, and that is why we even, and the Laikipia invasion in 2016-2017 is warranted also to the deforestation in Mau, because the Wasonyira River was hit hard. And coming back to the issue of BBI, with the CS being told to work with respect to the BBI, one thing that Kenyans have misunderstood about BBI is BBI has just been profiled as a referendum thing. BBI is apart from having a referendum in it, BBI collected views of Kenyans concerning the government and how things should run, and now the responses of the people is now being put forward to the CS that they should work in when putting policies and running government affairs, that they should work bearing in mind the feedback from the people.
Right. Away from that story now, on page 11 of the Star, 2.6 million Kenyans among Africans going to bed hungry, IGAD told. Lewis, it is 2019. We still have Kenyans who are going to bed hungry. 2.6 million. Where are we going wrong?
The fact that we are a developing country, it's so sad. Yeah, because if you realize, like, most of Kenyans live below a dollar a day. So I don't know, we can blame it on government or the structures put in place, because you can see the youth in terms of the unemployment that is at the country at such a century. So it's a wake-up call to anyone aspiring in terms of trying to give directions in any capacity within the country, to try and see how they can boost up. We have issues like social welfare for the elderly, they're catered for. But you see, when you have such people, 2.6 million Kenyans, I wish the research could have tried to put it out on terms of who's really affected. I understand is those people from marginalized communities.
Yeah, the pastoralists.
Yeah, so we should work on how we can improve, because they deal in livestock, how they can try and accommodate, despite the climatic conditions there, the issue of mixed cropping, and how they can have their cells or their livestock outside their counties.
Okay. Now, Keegan,
yes.
Page 19 of the Star, alcohol ruined my life, Inspector Mwala actor, Muliro.
Yusuf, I please allow me to talk on the issue of drought, because I come from Baringo County, and my county has been hit hard. So I would really appreciate if you allow me to speak on that story. There are 20 counties, then the number has increased now to 20 counties that are being affected by the drought. And this is particularly because the long rains, they failed, as the meteorological department had predetermined. And Yusuf, again, this is an issue of the government being reactionary and not visionary. Because we saw last week that the CS of devolution, Wamalwa, he released 5 billion, to cater for, to curb the drought and the 2.6 million people who might die from drought, because of hunger. And why is it only that when journalists report that the numbers are high of the people who are affected by drought, that is when we release money? This money would have been released earlier to cater for the projects. And again, this comes back to the projects that we put up, like Galana Kulalu, the irrigation projects, which were marred by corruption and mismanagement, and we even harvested almost nothing. And the buck for me here rests with the government. The government should really do something on that, because there are countries that, Kenya right now, we have to appreciate that it is largely semi-arid. And there are countries that are deserts, but the people are not dying of of hunger because their government has empowered them, and the government has plans and are cognizant of the fact that we have drought in our country, and this is how we will create food for our people. But again, there is a reason to smile for the people who are affected by drought currently, because the meteorological department yesterday released a statement that the shorter rains, which currently have moved from September to around December, they'll be higher than usual. So I think it's a reason to smile. We can at least grow some food.
Okay, now let's move on to Taifa Leo. One last story, page 5. Lewis, polisi sasa walaumiwa kwa kukwamilia pesa za dhamana. Polisi katika kaunti ya Uasin Gishu wamelaumiwa kuwatapeli wananchi na kutowarudishia dhamana zao wanapoachiliwa na mahakama. I mean, this is our justice system. We're seeing the police doing this, Lewis.
It's unfortunate. You know, these things happen especially from Friday to Sunday, in between the weekend.
Yeah.
And whereby you have exchange of money, because you see you cannot afford to spend your whole weekend buying bars. So it's so unfortunate that we can have at this injury security force. They say it's a service anyway, but which is not compliant with the laws of the land. So it's unfortunate, and it's the back stops with the IG Boynet and the boss Matiang'i.
Yeah. What should we do as reforms?
What we should do for that, I think we should set up an institution. I don't know if we should leave the people who are handling the bail and bond to the court or to the police. But I think if we can have an independent, institution that can handle that, so that it becomes easier, and you have even faith when giving, when attaching your property or giving your money, so that when the court case is finalized, you can be given back, so that at least things run smoothly. And I think it is something that we really need to check. And I think I'm not shocked to hear that, because for me it's the culture of the police. Police are in Kenya and have been intimidating people, and I think that is something that IG Mutiambai really needs to work on, so that even the citizens can have confidence in the police.
Even the citizens can have confidence in the police. That was Abdi Hakim Kigena, and on that note, we finished the newspaper review. Thank you very much, Lewis, for coming as usual. Thank you very much, Kigen. Now, that brings us to the end of the newspaper review, but don't go too far, because when we come back, Tech Tuesday begins. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban. You are watching the Sabah Show. Keep it locked right here on Horizon TV.